Hello everybody, and welcome to another episode of Come Back Stronger, where we bring you stories from North Florida and from around the world about people who have overcome challenges, obstacles, injuries, and setbacks and have come back stronger. The whole idea is that if they can do it, we can do it. Anybody can come back stronger. Every obstacle, every injury, and every setback is an opportunity for us to reevaluate our lives and begin again wiser and stronger. And today I'm joined with my law partner, Kimmy Hogan. And Kimmy, I'm so excited about today because Pastor Greg James is an absolute phenomenon in the community. What do you think of Pastor James?
Oh, I think he's wonderful. I'm so excited for y'all to get to hear his story about how he went to prison, but then when he came out, he's been focusing on making sure people don't go down that path again. Helping kids, helping people when they get out of prison, get re-entered into the community. It's just great stuff.
I'll tell you what, Pastor James is the epitome of what it means to come back stronger, because not only did he go to prison, but he had a life sentence. He had that life sentence overturned, and he was able to get out of prison, and he used the pain that he went through, the struggle that he went through, and he has turned that into a passion for helping people come out of prison and join reentry programs, helping convicted felons get their voting rights restored. I mean, he has really become a huge powerhouse, and it's just a perfect example of somebody who has taken the pain that they've went through and turned it into purpose.
Absolutely.
And that's what I love about Pastor James.
Yes, I can't wait to watch his interview.
Yes, so we are going to go to his interview after this commercial right now. And you know what the insurance company offered him? $5,000.
Really?
He's completely blind, and they offer him $5,000. Ask him to sign a release.
To a lot of people, especially when they're hurting and when they're down and when they're vulnerable, $5,000 is a life-changing amount of money. And they're not looking at the value of what has been lost. They're not looking at what it would take to make that person whole, which is our job. That's our job. Their job isn't. Their job is to save the insurance company money. And they look at this person and they go, I bet $5,000 would get your full attention. And they come in and they dangle it with a settlement release, and then once you sign it, you're done. You can't come back to us and ask us to wave a magic wand and make that go away. That can't go away.
My client didn't accept the $5,000. We took him all the way to trial. We got a $5 million verdict. Welcome back to Come Back Stronger, where we are about to interview Pastor Gregory James to tell his comeback story. So stay tuned and join my law partner, Carrie Roan, right now.
Reverend Greg James, thank you so much for being here with us today. I'm really excited about this interview.
Well, Carrie, listen, I am excited to be here with you.
So you have quite a comeback story. And first of all, you're such a colorful person. This is such a great day for me to be able to talk to you. And you got pink Converse on. You just look fantastic. I love it. I love your whole presentation.
Well, thank you. I mean, sometimes we have to be able to, in the midst of the dreary season that we're in, we have to find a way to just be bright and beautiful.
Well, you're doing that. You did it. You smiled the minute I walked in. I'm like, this is going to be a great interview. So I love it. So tell me a little bit about the beginning of your story, your fall, so to speak, and what you were doing that landed you in prison for 14 years.
Well, I was a local pastor here in the city, and in 1995, I was arrested by the federal agents, maybe 2 blocks away from the church that I pastored in Gadsden.
Wow.
Really, I was in a state of denial because I felt like I hadn't done anything, so I went to trial, only to hear testimony after testimony that brought my life to an end, being sentenced to life plus 40 years for conspiracy to traffic in cocaine.
Did you say life plus 40?
Yeah.
But yet you're sitting here today.
Yeah, I mean, you know, the thing that is so amazing about that is that I never would have imagined that I would be here. But my grandmother always told me, baby, you're not going to do life. God is going to bring you out. And sure enough, through the course of a series of events that happened in my case, I was able to hire an attorney to fight on a charge that I was charged with that really opened the door to my freedom.
Well, before we get there, it's kind of ironic because God kind of also had a hand in sending you to prison, right?
Absolutely.
in a way.
Well, I mean, his hand was in it. I mean, because I was pastoring a church. This is the thing here. I was preaching life, but I was selling death. Can you imagine people who are coming to church to hear a word to change their life, and then there are people who are sitting in church to get a drug from me that's going to demise people's lives? So God had to arrest me, not the FBI, but the HBI. So I had to be arrested.
What's the HBI?
It's Heaven's Bureau of Investigation.
Oh, wow, look at that. Look at that. But it's such a conflict to live with. You know, to be preaching life and selling death at the same time. It's such a good thing that you went to prison, really.
Well, it was because there had become a desensitized of feelings.
Right.
I had become numb to the right thing to do. And my life was so consumed with money, drugs, and women.
Yeah. Wow.
Until I was preaching what I wasn't practicing.
Right. So you went to prison for 14 years, and you were in Leavenworth, you told me earlier.
Yeah, my first encounter was Leavenworth Federal Penitentiary. And the thing that was so amazing and so shocking was that we drove underneath the prison, and the guy said, "Welcome to your home. You'll never see the outside again," because Leavenworth was surrounded by a 40-foot wall.
Wow.
So only thing you could do was look up.
How old were you at the time?
At the time, I was 32 years old.
Did you have a family or kids that you left behind?
Well, I had a family. I had gotten a divorce. So, my brother was in high school. And my other brother was employed in law enforcement. So
That must have crushed your parents because you were the pastor in the family.
Well, my mom had passed. My dad had remarried. So it did crush everybody.
Why do you think as a successful pastor you decided to sell drugs at such a huge level?
Well, believe it or not, I didn't make the decision. Somebody made it for me.
Tell me about that.
Because all of my life I had been in church, so I had never experienced the fast and fury lifestyle until I met a young man from New York who had already plotted out my journey.
Really?
Yes, and by doing so, he kind of like gave me what I needed for ministry. That was money. Then he opened up other doors for me. And what was so amazing about my journey into the drug culture, everybody trusted the fact that they could trust me with drugs because why? I was a pastor.
You're a pastor.
I had a certain place that I was going to be on Sunday, so I couldn't run off with the money.
Right.
So my connections became so great because I had stability with my presence.
And you're a man of God.
Yeah.
You know? That's fascinating. So it's very alluring. I imagine that world was very alluring for you because it was like something you never knew about.
Absolutely.
And he drew you into it, and it became, I guess, necessary for you.
It became the oxygen that really kept my life moving because the more I wanted, the more I got, the more I wanted. It just became the fuel that, gave me the energy to want more money, more power. It just really sucked me in and gave me a redefinition of what life was all about.
The wrong definition, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But it had some right consequences because it made me a better person.
Well, that's what this whole show is about, is you can go from the wrong choices to ultimately, a bad position in life and ultimately come out the other side a better person.
Absolutely.
And that's what we're trying to teach with this show and let people see is that you can have people like you who are revived and rehabilitated and come back to be so productive and such a great mentor in the community. So tell me about, before we go to the commercial break, we've got another couple minutes, but tell me about your lawyer and what happened that got you ultimately out of that life sentence plus 40 so that you're back with us today.
Well, I mean, I was involved in a conspiracy of murder. Okay. And what's so amazing about it is that I know that I did not have anything to do with it. And my attorney was able to have guys who were able to collaborate my story.
And you had a female lawyer, right?
Yes, I did.
From Atlanta?
From Atlanta.
Yeah.
And she was an Italian lawyer. And she was amazing.
Good.
And expensive.
And she believed you, though.
She believed me.
Believed in you.
Absolutely.
So she went and collected the evidence that you needed to prove to the state attorney or the federal attorney?
Absolutely.
That you were innocent.
Absolutely. And so doing, it changed my whole life. I mean, my appeal was asked that I just walk away from it, and they'll re-sentence me. So I'm grateful for the way God orchestrates things. We don't know how it's going to turn out. But my grandmother always told me, you're not going to do all of that. And as she would have it, she's not here. She didn't see me be released, but she always would tell me, you're going to come out.
What date did you get out?
I got out in 2005.
Okay.
In March.
Okay. And before we started this interview, you told me you had some pretty famous or infamous cellmates when you were at Leavenworth. Who were they?
Oh no! As I progressed through the system, I was cellmates with Jeff Conway, who was the CEO of Ruth Chris Steakhouse. I was cellmates with Charles Kushner, who was Jairus Kushner's father. I was cellmates with Martin Glass, who used to own Rite Aid. So my journey has been one that has introduced me to a plethora of successful people who ended up with a number just like me.
Fascinating.
Yes.
Everybody was equal in Leavenworth, right?
Everybody.
So we're going to take a break, but when we come back, I want to hear about the flip side of your story and what life has been like since 2005.
Absolutely. Can't wait to tell you.
Heaven's Bureau of Investigation.
Awesome.
How funny is that? That is so, but you know what is absolutely true? Is that sometimes when we get in trouble or when things go really, really, really wrong for us, it's because that is life guiding us to the right path.
Yeah.
It's showing us we're on the wrong path and guiding us to the right path, and that's exactly what happened with Pastor James.
Yeah, he had so many good tidbits. I love how he started it. He said, in the midst of a dreary season, find a reason to be bright and beautiful.
Yes.
Wearing his pink Converse.
I love it. I
love that.
absolutely love it. Yeah, he so one of the things that he's going to probably talk about in the next section is that he has started, not only is he doing his church, but he's doing something called Wake Up Wednesday, and he's doing so many things in the community that are really making a difference in people's lives. And that's one of the greatest parts about a great comeback story, is that it's not just about coming back and making your own life better.
Yeah.
It's about utilizing the lessons that you've learned through your comeback story and making the lives of other people better. And that's what it's all about.
Exactly.
So that's
what
what I
he's
love
doing.
about Pastor James. So that's what we're going to hear about in the next section. But first, we're going to go to a commercial break. See you soon.
She contacted me almost in a fugue. She couldn't believe that it happened. And something told her, this is not right.
She had lost her daughter.
This is not right. My little girl should be here, and I'm going to do something about it. She contacted me, and I went to see her, I think that day. And we sat at her dining room table, and she showed me the program from the funeral. And I met her sons and saw her gravesite, and I just told her, I don't know what happened, but I'm going to find out, and we're going to do something about it. And she and I bonded right then, and she's been in my life ever since. And seeing how she has used something that is an unimaginable loss and found some way to live a better life and make a better life for her son. There's nothing better.
Welcome back to Come Back Stronger, where we are talking to Pastor Gregory James. He's telling his fascinating story about how he went to prison for 14 years, had a life sentence, and ultimately was released and has come back and changed the world. So this is the second segment of his interview. Can't wait for you to see it.
All right, Reverend James, so we're back. Tell me what happened when you got out in 2005.
Well, you know, Karen, what's so amazing is that even while I was in with the life sentence, I would always envision what I was going to do once I was released. And I would always write it down. And I would always tell the guys, man, when I get out, I'm going to do. And they was like, man, you're not going to get out. You got life plus 40 years. And
But you still held on to that belief and that hope and that goal?
Yeah, after I decided to stop living the prison life, because I was in gangs, I ran drugs.
Yeah.
I mean, I was a gang leader, all of that inside.
Inside prison?
Inside of prison.
Oh, wow.
So after I made a decision that I was going to walk away from the gang lifestyle,
Yeah.
I was going to walk away from the drugs, I was going to walk away from all of the illegal things that you could do in prison.
When did you do that, and what made you come to that decision?
Well, I came to it because I was tired. I was tired of living the lifestyle in prison that I was living prior to prison.
Okay.
And the question was, as a man of God, don't you know that God is really trying to get your attention? So why are you still being so disobedient? So it's kind of like in the Bible when the prodigal son came to himself. He said, I'll go back home. He came back.
Yeah.
And there's nothing like coming back. And I'm so grateful that it's this kind of program that help viewers to understand that people can come back from whatever fall.
Yeah.
And it's hard for people to embrace recovery, but it's only when we can embrace recovery that we can appreciate people returning.
So I read in your biography and that reclaim is a big word for you.
Absolutely. And it's a big word because I know what it means to tear the fabrics of a community apart.
Because you've done it.
I've done it.
Yeah.
So to reclaim communities and to reclaim lives, that's my mantra.
And what are you doing now to do that, to reclaim lives?
Well, I mean, I'm grateful now that I'm very transparent about my story.
Yeah.
I'm grateful now that I have opportunities to mentor children whose parents are incarcerated. We have a program that we call Impact, where we're dealing with those who are returning back into our communities. We're constantly doing reentry initiatives to help make sure that these men and women are given a fair chance.
You're gonna make me cry. That's wonderful.
My eyes are tearing up as well, because and then the biggest thing that I really find myself just overjoyed about is when I can walk into the courtroom and really stand before a judge and a state attorney and ask for a person to be a part of my program as opposed to prison.
Yeah.
And then the success stories that we've had has been amazing. So it's like every day that I get up, I'm not fighting for myself. I'm fighting to reclaim people, positions, and possessions.
For other people.
For other people.
Other very deserving people.
Absolutely.
That's wonderful. Yeah. What's the name of your nonprofit?
It's Reclaiming the Land.
Okay. And you're involved in an initiative, I think it's called TLH Cares or Tallahassee Cares?
Tallahassee Cares, which is it's the Peacemakers Initiative, which is a group of formerly incarcerated men, well over 100 men, and we have been identified as Tallahassee Peacemakers. I mean, because 100 formerly incarcerated men were probably troublemakers.
I would imagine
but
so.
But now we're under a new banner, and that's peace.
I love it.
So we're fighting to stop some of the gang violence. We're fighting to stop some of the gun violence. We're educating our young men about choices and consequences. So we're peacemakers.
I love that.
And it's just amazing. And the joy that I have in seeing people's lives change. There's no dollar amount that you
I imagine that you can relate so well to people because you know where they are and you know what choices they're faced with and how hard their choices are, but you can really show them the results of bad choices and the results of good choices.
My life is that picture.
Yeah.
And I don't try to dress it up. It's like I sold drugs. I was a pastor. I did everything that I should not have done. And the consequences of my choices gave me a life plus 40-year sentence, which means I shouldn't be here.
No.
So since I'm here, then that means I've got to do everything I can to reclaim.
Absolutely. What an amazing journey.
It has been an amazing journey.
So you've written a book, and you've got another book coming out.
Yes.
So tell me what Leverage is about. That's the book that is already out, and then tell me what your new book is coming out.
Leverage is a book about how to get the most out of your darkest place. Most people, when they think about liabilities, they kind of write them off. But I teach how to take a liability and turn it into an asset. My life, my number 1040017, ex-felon, liability.
Yeah.
But I took that and I turned it into an asset, because that has opened so many doors for me. I've had an opportunity to work under the Obama administration. I had an opportunity to work with Jared Kushner, whose father was my cellmate. I had an opportunity to do some work, even throughout the state of Florida, advocating for the rights of felons to be on the ballot. So I have taken my liability and turned it into an asset. And so that's what I teach out of the book Leverage, because everything is about leveraging.
And everybody can do that.
Everybody can do
Don't be scared or embarrassed about your liabilities or your shortcomings or your failures. Use them to better yourself and better other people.
Absolutely. As a matter of fact, they are what helps you to better yourself, if you can see it like that.
Right. How can people get in touch with you if they're watching this show?
They can visit us at our website, www.gregoryjames.com ministry. They can visit us on our Facebook page. They can visit us on our Twitter, Instagram. I mean, I'm not hard to find. The name Gregory James, it was found by the FBI, so everybody who's watching can find it.
And the HBI, too.
And the HBI.
Well, thank you so much for giving us your time. I mean, I feel like I've made such an incredible friend for life in you, and people are welcome to reach out to me to get a hold of you, too. Because
Absolutely.
This has just been such a valuable interview. Thank you so much.
But thank you so much, and I appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you.
Wow, there is so much to unpack from Pastor Gregory James' story. I love the idea of leverage. I love the idea that that your greatest weakness or your greatest failure, the worst thing that you've ever been through can also become your greatest strength.
Absolutely.
And I've seen that over and over. I've seen it in my life, and I've seen it in a lot of the clients that we represent. So what was your big takeaway?
Well, for me, and this is central to a lot of these comeback stories we hear, he made a decision to change his life. I mean, he was in prison, he was leading gangs, he was still dealing drugs, and then he had a moment in prison where he said, I don't want to be this person anymore. I want to be an asset to my community. I want to be somebody else. And he just changed. And that always sticks with me, is any day you wake up, you can make that decision.
Yes.
I'm going to change today.
Yes.
I'm going to be a different person today. And that's awesome. I also loved how he talked about this group of men that used to be troublemakers, and now they're peacemakers.
Yeah.
That's great.
I love it. So one of my takeaways based on and related to what you're saying is that change happens for everybody. It happens from the inside out. And how does it start? With a single decision.
Yes.
He decided one day, I am done with this lifestyle. I am going to improve myself, make myself a better person. And because of that, he has turned around and made the lives of so many other people better with one single decision. And the great part about it is every moment of every day is an opportunity to make that decision.
Agreed.
To reach your highest and best self, to live your highest and best life. This is a guy that was in prison in Leavenworth in 2005 with a life plus 40-year sentence. And now he is sitting here in this interview and he's changing the world.
Yeah.
I absolutely love it. So we're going to go back to a commercial and we're going to come back and wrap it up. Thanks.
I think people don't understand how harmful it can be to wait. Evidence and people are in the wind. You know, if you need a video of something, that could get recorded over within sometimes 24 hours. Yeah. So it's not, oh, I ran to a lawyer right away. No, I stood up for myself and preserved evidence and preserved my rights.
I had a case where one of my clients got her finger stuck in a door because the door closer had rusted, and the company had done a terrible job at maintaining it. But she came to us within days of having her finger amputated, And it was so important that she did that because I was able to get an expert to fly down to that condominium to inspect the door closer. I mean, we had evidence within 2 weeks, and we were able to get a wonderful settlement for her, but we wouldn't have been able to if she hadn't have called us and
That would have been
contacted
an
us.
entirely different case even 2 or 3 months later.
Welcome back, everybody, to Come Back Stronger, where we just heard the interviews of Pastor Gregory James, who has a fascinating story of having gone to Leavenworth prison with a life plus 40-year sentence, and then coming out of that, getting part of his conviction overturned, and ultimately coming back to change the world by becoming his highest and best self, by becoming a great person. Kimmy, I love these interviews. I particularly love this interview with Pastor James. What was your greatest takeaway of all?
Well, oh gosh, I've got two.
Okay.
So one is, we always talk about how it's important to envision the future. And so he thought about his goal and he wrote it down.
Yes.
Even though he still had the life sentence, he wrote it down and said, I'm going to be out of here.
Yes.
I'm going to be a different person. And then he made it happen.
He believed. He believed that he was going to get out because his grandmother told him he was going to get out.
Yep.
And sure enough, next thing you know, he's out and he's doing his thing. Yeah.
Awesome. And then the second thing is, in a lot of these stories that we hear, there's an actor, another person in the individual's life that either kind of steers them towards good or steers them towards bad. And that stuck out to me too, how there was this gentleman from New York that he ran into that kind of got him on the path of dealing drugs at his church. And so to me, that reminds me, you got to be careful whose counsel you listen to.
Yes, 100%.
Because people can be very powerful in pushing you towards good or towards bad. So be careful who you're listening to.
Be careful who you're listening to. That is a major takeaway.
Yeah. What about you, Jimmy?
What I love the most is when he said that God was trying to get his attention. Because I believe that is absolutely true, is that life is always, every moment of every day, trying to get our attention, to guide us towards our best and highest path. And you see, if you're open to it, you can see signs all over the place. Next thing you know, your attention's drawn to a billboard. You see a commercial on TV that triggers something, and we know deep in our hearts a lot of times what we need to be doing, what we should be doing, what path we should be on, and we're constantly being nudged in that direction. So I love that part of its testimony. All right, well, everybody, this has been a fantastic show. We love doing these shows for you. Every week we are doing Come Back Stronger episodes. Fasig Brooks, if you also can join us on the Come Back Stronger Facebook group, and we look forward to seeing you the next time. Thank you. Just because you have a pre-existing injury does not mean that you are not entitled to compensation for the injury being aggravated or exacerbated by somebody else's carelessness.
I talk to new clients all the time, and they're concerned that because they had a prior neck injury or back injury, that they can't bring a claim now that they've been made worse.
Right, absolutely not.
And so I'm so glad that they call so we can explain to them that in Florida, no, we're able to get you compensation for any way that your body has changed in a negative way because of this accident.
Yeah. I've also had clients who've said, well, I think I'm partially at fault here. Do I have a case? In Florida, you can be partially at fault. You can be 90% at fault, but you still have a case for the other 10% that was somebody else's fault. That's incredibly important for people to know, because that can turn out to be a lot of money. That can be a life-changing amount of money.